Is blindness a barrier? No.
Is deafness a barrier? No.
Are mobility, learning, cognitive disabilities, speech impairments and others, or even a combination of them, barriers? No way. Lack of accessibility is.
Welcome to Web Accessibility for All.
Follow the blind. This journey starts now.
Hey my friend, and welcome back to Web Accessibility for All, the podcast where we break down the how and the why of building better digital experiences for everyone. I am your host, Ariel. Today we are tackling something that a lot of teams think they have covered, but really don't. We're talking about mobile accessibility testing. If you've ever thought,
well, it looks fine on my laptop, so it must work on mobile.
Or,
the simulator says the button is there, so we're good.
then today's episode is especially for you. I'm gonna share what real-world mobile accessibility testing actually looks like, not just checklists, but how to think about it the right way.
Setting the scene. Mobile is different.
Alright, let's talk about mobile accessibility testing. It's not just desktop on a smaller screen. It's a whole different world. You got tiny screens, no mouse, no physical keyboard. Everything is touch or gesture based. And you are not just dealing with one device, you're juggling different operating systems, screen sizes, hardware quirks. It's a lot. Then there is assistive tech, voiceover, talkback, and they behave differently from desktop screen readers. Even something like vibration or screen blur can impact how someone uses your app. And what are we testing exactly? Native apps? Web apps? Responsive sites? The answer? All of them. So yeah, mobile accessibility, it's trickier, but it's also essential. But here is where it gets tricky. The Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG, were written mainly thinking about web content, desktop first. So when we read about keyboard focus or tab order, on mobile, we have to interpret that into gesture navigation. On mobile, swiping right is like pressing the tab key. Swiping left is like shift plus tab.
Native apps, hybrid apps, and web apps. What's the difference for accessibility testing?
Let's take a second to talk about something that still confuses a lot of teams.
What exactly are we testing? Is it a native app, a hybrid app, or just a web app that works on mobile?
It matters because the way we test accessibility changes depending on what we are dealing with.
Native apps.
Native apps are built just for a specific platform, like Swift for iOS or Java for Android. You download them from an app store and they live right on your phone. They've got direct access to device features, things like the camera, sensors, voice assistant, and gesture controls. When it comes to accessibility testing, native apps are deeply tied into the OS's accessibility APIs. That means testing usually involves real devices running voiceover or talkback. Tools like Accessibility Inspector on iOS or Accessibility Scanner on Android. And of course, don't skip manual testing. Gestures and external keyboards matters too.
Web-based apps.
We've got web apps, fully web-based experiences designed to work on mobile browsers. Think booking sites, news platforms, online stores, all running in Safari, Chrome, or Firefox, not in native app. Testing them is similar to desktop web accessibility, but with some extra mobile checks. You've got to look at gestures, zoom behavior, touch targets, and how everything works in small screens. Key tools include Chrome DevTools with mobile simulation, screen readers, real mobile browser testing with TalkBack and VoiceOver, and magnification or zoom testing on actual devices.
Hybrid apps.
And last, hybrid apps, which are basically web apps wrapped in a native shell. They look and install like regular apps. The tricky part? Accessibility relies on both the web code and how the native shell handles things like focus, labels, and gestures. So you got double the testing as a website and as an app. Key tools here include screen readers like TalkBack and VoiceOver, browser-based testing for the web layer, web view accessibility checks, and real device testing to catch issues where native and web layers don't play nice. So you see, it's not just test on a phone and you're done. You need to know what kind of beast you're training before you pick the right accessibility testing tools and techniques.
Hey, the simulator says everything's perfect.
Yeah, tell that to the user trying to double tap a button that's the size of a grain of rice.
Maybe we should test on a real phone?
You think?
Why real devices matter.
Simulators and browser emulators just aren't enough. Sure, Chrome DevTools can fake a small screen, and yeah, BrowserStack is great for testing on Android versions you don't own. But real devices behave differently. Screen readers on actual phones have quirks, weird lag, random focus jumps, unpredictable touch behavior, and so on. If you are serious about accessibility, you've got to test the real stuff. How touch responds, how gestures work, how the layout shifts when you rotate the screen. You'll need to check zoom behavior, voice control commands, and even what happens when someone plugs in a physical keyboard. No emulator can fully cover all that.
How to build a practical testing criteria.
So, given how complicated all this can get, how do you build a safe, wise, and repeatable testing plan for mobile accessibility? You create a living criteria like this.
For developers.
Test with real screen readers. Check touch targets. Zoom the screen rotation. Check that swipe navigation is logical. Validate semantic markup if it's a web-based app.
For QA testers.
Expand traditional testing scripts to include gestures. Simulate using the app one-handed with reduced motor precision. Try device settings like bold text, reduce motion, high contrast modes. Capture real-world screenshots and video showing issues.
Axe DevTools Mobile, a tool you should know.
If you haven't tried Axe DevTools Mobile, it's definitely worth a look. It's from the same team behind Axe Core, but this one's made for native apps, both iOS and Android. You run it on real devices and it catches issues like missing labels, poor contrast, and focus problems right inside the running app. The best part? It gives clear, developer-friendly feedback. It's a solid way to catch issues early, and it fits nicely into both manual QA and CI pipelines. If mobile accessibility matters to you, this tool is a smart addition to your stack.
Official resources you can trust.
And yes, there is official guidance.
W3CS Mobile Accessibility Guidelines and Mobile Accessibility Task Force Notes.
They aren't as strict as WCAG 2.2, but they highlight important real-world advice, like designing for touch, supporting both portrait and landscape, testing zoom, reflow, screen reader gestures, avoiding traps like shake to refresh gestures that can be performed by everyone. If you're serious, start using both WCAG 2.2 and W3C's mobile-specific recommendations together.
Fast checklist for mobile accessibility testing.
Alright, before we wrap up, here's my fast checklist for mobile accessibility testing.
Touch targets.
Are all buttons and links at least 44 by 44 pixels? Can you tap them easily without playing finger gymnastics?
Screen reader support.
Have you tested with VoiceOver on iOS and TalkBack on Android? Are all labels, hints, and roles clear and useful?
Device rotation.
Can your app or site use comfortably in both portrait or landscape? And you are not forcing orientation, right?
Zoom and magnification.
Do you allow users to pinch zoom?
Keyboard and external device navigation.
Can users navigate your app with a Bluetooth keyboard or Braille device? Can they move focus logically?
Modal dialogues and overlays.
When a modal opens, does focus stay inside it? Can users dismiss it easily without rage tapping everywhere?
Color contrast and visibility.
Are your texts and UI elements readable in bright light, dark mode, and everything in between?
Real device testing.
Did you test on real devices to catch those sneaky issues you won't spot otherwise?
Consistency across platforms.
Did you check both iOS and Android? Trust me, what works on one sometimes gets weird on the other. If you can say yes to all of this, congratulations! You are not just doing accessibility testing. You are building mobile experiences that actually works for everyone, everywhere. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Web Accessibility for All. Big thanks for hanging out with me today. And hey, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this episode with someone who's still testing only on emulators. Trust me, they need it. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us today. Subscribe for a new challenge next week. And don't be shy. Leave us a review or ask your accessibility questions online. See you next week for another episode of Web Accessibility for All.